Morning. Good morning. Morning. Welcome to the start of a new academic year at Stephen F. Austin State University. It's always great to see the hustle and bustle of a new year, and that's certainly been the scene across campus, at least over this past week, as a lot of people are moving in and getting things set up ready for the start of class. Many of our students are already here, our student athletes, our marching band students, a lot of our residence life student staff and other groups have already moved in, so you've seen cars on campus already. But you know that the residence hall's open tomorrow, so stay off North Street tomorrow, remember that. And if you need to go to Walmart, do it today because you'll run out of time otherwise. We have more than 60 new faculty members that are joining us as we start this academic year, and I met many of them as they worked through orientation over the last few days. And we have several new professional staff members that have joined us in the recent past. Dr. Bullard is going to highlight some of these new members of the faculty and the professional staff a little later in the program today. But let me say right now, welcome to the SFA family. We're very glad you're here. And we know that you're going to find your experience here to be a good one. I want to recognize a few special guests as we get started today and thank them for joining us. First, as most of you know, we're very privileged to have our own independent Board of Regents, and they are strongly engaged in what goes on across campus, and that requires leadership from the top. And today, that leader is joining us, the chair of our Board of Regents, Ms. Bridget Henderson of Lufkin. Bridget is serving in her second year as chair of our board after Governor Greg Abbott recently reappointed her to a second term on the board. And so thanks for helping us kick off the new year. Madam Chair, would you please stand and let us say thanks to you? We're also fortunate to have another member of our board, a new member of our board. So she's with us for at least 6 years. And she's just getting started learning about the university. We're very glad that you're here today. Ms. Jennifer Winston of Lufkin also, would you please stand, Jen, and let us thank you. Now, the members of our board serve 6-year terms, and just because a member's term ends often means that their affiliation with the university continues. And support of the university continues oftentimes after these members leave our Board of Regents. So today, just as tradition calls for, one of the most loyal supporters of our university is with us today during our welcome back meeting. Just as he's been for as long as my memory serves, we can't begin a new year without the presence of our friend and former Regent, Dr. Peggy Wright. Dr. Wright was named to our Board of Regents in 1973. She served 16 years on our Board of Regents, and during that time, she was elected as chair of our board 4 times. Not only is she an SFA graduate, but she graduated as a child from the SFA demonstration school. In addition, she holds an honorary doctorate from SFA, and she was only the second person to receive an honorary doctorate here at the university. And as most of you know, the music building on our campus is named for her and her late husband, Tom Wright. So Dr. Wright, would you please stand and let us thank you for your many contributions to SFA. I told Peggy earlier we can't start without her, so we're glad she's here today so we can get going. We're celebrating a lot of new beginnings today, and some of them just happen to be construction projects. Several people have asked me over the past several weeks if I plan to provide some kind of brief to you today about projects that have been underway and those that are scheduled to start during the upcoming year. So, yes, here we go. First, if you were here over the summer, you probably noticed the work that we had going on several street and parking projects. Griffith Boulevard, which is the street that connects the main entrance to Clark Boulevard, has now been completely rehabbed and is open for business. And the visitor information booth, you might notice, that was originally located on Vista Drive, has been relocated to the eastbound lane of Griffith to help visitors make their access to the parking that's available in the Student Center garage much more accessible. And there are 2 parking lot projects on the south side of Fazell Street and one on Star Avenue, just west of Dr. R. Scott's film making house. And these are the beginning stages of these projects, and they will be completed hopefully mid-fall. We will be adding about 100 additional parking spaces when those projects are complete, and as you know, there's never enough parking. The parking project on Star will also help provide parking when the house at 1401 Mound Street, which is also known as the K. Bailey Hutchison House, will be renovated for our growing hospitality administration program in the School of Human Sciences. And it will be renovated to specifically provide a new location for the Culinary Cafe and its programs. The renovation is scheduled to begin next summer, and it will maintain the historical integrity of that house, all while it provides much needed improvements for the students and the faculty that are in that program. Our new basketball performance center addition to the William R. Johnson Coliseum is already underway. Those of you that were at the summer commencement ceremony got a first-hand look at that project. There's an 18-month timeline for that construction, which means that new facility should be completed early spring 2021. The new College of Fine Arts expansion project. Buddy, where are you? Buddy, what are you doing here? You should have your hammer and saw out starting work over there at the Fine Arts Expansion Project. But it's still, it's finishing up the programming phase, which means the construction plans are about to be drawn and started in earnest. So in the not too distant future, the faculty and staff in the Griffiths Fine Arts Building will be relocating to spaces all across campus. So it's going to be hard to find Buddy and some of his faculty for a period of time. They'll be scattered across campus as that project is undergoing. And this almost $40 million facility hopes to break ground sometime in the spring, hopefully in March, and the projected completion date of that project will be the end of the fall semester of 2022. While these projects are underway, the student residential housing portion of the master plan is still being executed. A new first-year student residence hall will be the first phase of that multi-phase project, with that new facility being sited right to the east of the Lumberjack Landing Residence Hall. And that project is scheduled to start this coming January with a completion date summer of 2021. And when that new hall is ready for occupancy, Hall 16 will come down, and a new student dining hall will find its home on the site of Hall 16 at that time. And when the new student dining hall is complete, then East College Cafeteria will come down to provide some parking and green space there. So that's sort of the sequencing of all of those projects. I've been asked, why are we waiting to build the new dining hall before we take them down? We serve about 16,000 meals a week. There's no other place to do that. So East College Cafeteria will remain open for a period of time. So if you would like to get your picture, as we've had reunion groups come on campus over the past year, I've told them if you lived in Hall 16 or ate in East College Cafeteria, and most raised their hand, I said go by and get your picture made with it because it won't be with us much longer. And last but not least, the new SFA Welcome Center and One Stop Shop will find its home in the southeast zone of the campus in a location that's not quite been finalized yet. That should be nailed down in the next few weeks, and then planning can begin for that long-needed facility. So we have a lot of exciting new beginnings at SFA, but none is more exciting than the arrival of our new president. After the death of Dr. Patillo in late December of last year, our Board of Regents engaged in a very comprehensive and rigorous search process to select the person that would lead us as president as we close out our first century and as an institution prepare to enter our next 100 years. For a board, there is no greater responsibility than selecting the president of a university. And our board listened to and assessed the wants and needs of the university community. They combined those with the expectations of the state that are outlined in the statewide higher education plan, 60 by 30 Texas. And with all those factors in consideration, the board announced on July 23rd that Dr. Scott Gordon, the provost at Eastern Washington University, had been selected as the sole finalist for the position. And then just last Saturday, the board met and unanimously elected Dr. Gordon as the 9th president of Stephen F. Austin State University. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our new president and our new colleague, Dr. Scott Gordon.
Well, hello to my new SFA family. It's great to be here, and what a whirlwind it has been over the last month. I'm not here yet, at least not for moving purposes. That's all going to occur here within the next 5 to 6 days, so a lot of work left to do. It's exciting to be here, and I can't express adequately how thrilled I am to be able to serve you and lead this institution. I look forward to getting to know all of you, and I kind of joked to folks earlier that there's going to be a quiz, and I'm going to remember everybody's name. But with all the different individuals I've met, it's going to take some time, so please bear with me. This is just a wonderful institution, and it didn't take long to learn about and fall in love with SFA. And I know all of you are doing outstanding work, and I'm going to work tirelessly to get to learn about SFA, everything SFA. I want to learn about you, what you're doing to help our students, what you're doing as faculty in the laboratories, in the recital halls, in the field, all those different areas where faculty do their work. This is such an exciting time. I know we have a lot of new faculty, I believe about 60. I'd like for those new faculty to please stand and be recognized. So, question of the new faculty. Does this look familiar? I'm studying it too. So, one of the things that I do want to talk about is the idea that Steve mentioned about new beginnings. This is a new beginning for all of us. And we're going to have some time to get to know one another. And what I'm going to tell you is that I do have some ideas. I have lots of ideas, but I'm not going to be the wet dog. Now, you're asking, what is the wet dog? Well, we all know that if you let your dog out on a hot summer day, where do they go? They go to the local pond. And then they jump into the water, they get cooled off, and then they run back to, and what do? They shake all of that water off. Well, I don't want to be that wet dog and shake all of these ideas, because what immediately do you do when the dog does that? So I will try very hard to not be the wet dog. One of the other things I'm going to pledge to do, besides getting to know all the work that you're doing, is I want to have open sessions, open forums, because I want to know what's working, what isn't working, what are some areas that we need to begin exploring. And I think by doing that, it'll help me to get a good sense of the mood at the campus. So I want to do a few things today. I want to first say a few thank yous, and then I want to talk a little bit about who I am and some of my guiding principles in a leadership role. First and foremost, I know Bridget and Jen are here. I'd like to thank them and the Board of Trustees for putting the faith in my leadership to serve this institution. So thank you very much. I also want to thank the large number of new colleagues, community members, and really the entire Lumberjack family who came out for the events that we had just about 2 weeks ago. What a wonderful, warm welcome that I and my wife have received. And we're so excited to move and to get settled in and to really get to know all of you and the community. I also want to thank Steve Westbrook. You know, Steve jumped in and led the institution during a very difficult time. And I spent 4 hours with Steve last night, and what a wonderful individual, wonderful person, and a wealth of knowledge about all things SFA. So I'm excited to be working with Steve. I'm excited to learn a lot about the history of SFA and really work closely. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge Dr. Patillo. Dr. Patillo has a long and storied leadership record here at SFA and presided over SFA during a lot of growth. And I do recognize his leadership, and I do recognize that the activities, the growth, the successes that we will achieve will rest on those that he established. So I want to thank him for his leadership. I'd like, yes. So I'd like to talk a little bit about who I am, because many of you may not have any idea besides what you've read in the newspaper about who I am. And I'm not going to go through all the different things that I've done in my over 25 years in higher education. You can read that at some point. I'm sure we'll have a website and we'll put the bio up and so on and so forth. What I want to talk about is who I am. What has given me the ideas, the thoughts, who I am, my soul. What has given me that? And really, it started in the fact that I grew up in a pretty isolated area of the country. Many of you think about New York State, and you immediately think of New York City. I grew up about as far from New York City as you can get and still being in New York. In the northern Adirondack mountain foothills in a place called Malone. Anybody ever hear of Malone? Oh yeah, a few people have heard of Malone. Not very many people in Malone. In fact, today there are more incarcerated individuals in Malone than there are residents of Malone. Because a lot of the major industry has left the area, and so the prison industry filled that void. So growing up, we didn't have a whole lot. Grew up in a home that was about 800 square feet, 5 of us. And yes, mornings were interesting with the one bathroom that we had. The 5 of us were very close. We had to be. I'm the youngest of 3 boys. My oldest brother is retired from the Army. He also worked for, you got it, the New York State prison system, and was the infectious disease coordinator. I have a brother who is a physical education teacher and coach and has been doing that for over 25 years. And what I really want to talk about is who really instilled in me the values of leadership, the value of servant leadership, and the value of giving back. And that was my parents. My dad passed away just before Christmas this past year, but he really had some ideas and he really had some thoughts and really instilled in me 3 things that I hope we can instill in all of our students. And those 3 things are grit, grace, and gratitude. So we didn't have a whole lot growing up. And I always, well, not always, I now say, we didn't have everything we wanted, but we had everything we needed. And I can remember my dad, who worked for the New York State Department of Transportation as a laborer. And this was back in the 1970s. He would come home and this was back in the time before all the automation of the big sand and salt trucks. For those of you who have been to northern New York State, they get a little bit of snow, ice, and cold there. And so he would come home from sometimes 12-hour shifts where he was in the back of the truck shoveling the snow and salt out onto the road. And he would walk into the house and he would be almost blue. And my mom would be ready with blankets that were just fresh out of the clothes dryer and wrap him up in blankets, put him in a rocking chair near the heat register, and we only had about 3 in the house. And he would sit there and rock in the rocking chair, and he would look at us three kids playing on the floor and say, "You kids will never have to suffer the way I have suffered. You are all going to college." And so I heard that message for years. And it wasn't until I got a little older that I realized the transformational nature of higher education. And what really excites me about SFA is the transformational nature SFA has on individuals, on families, on communities, and in this state of Texas. So it's so exciting to be a part of that. It's so exciting to be able to shape lives, transform lives. And I am so proud of the work that all of you have done and will continue to do to shape lives and transform those individuals, families, and communities. And so that gives you a little bit about how I grew up. And when I got into college as a first-generation college student, my dad used to say that he went to the University of Hard Knocks. Yeah, Dad. And he did. And my mom, she was very sickly when she was younger and with severe asthma. And she didn't get to graduate with her high school class because she was so sick. So they always said, "We want you not only to go to college, but we want you to graduate, and we want you to attend every one of your graduations because we didn't have that luxury." And so where am I going with all of this? Where I'm going is the fact that I went into college as a first-generation college student, and I had no clue. I was lost. But it was faculty and staff like you who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself and made me realize how transformative higher education can be. And so I had faculty who took me under their wing. I participated in undergraduate research, big fan of undergraduate research. I had a faculty member who took me to graduate schools. I got in his car and he drove me to various graduate schools so that I could visit and see and understand what graduate work was all about. So again, seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself, that's happening on this campus every single day. So, went to graduate school and again, had people who had great mentors. And that's been a common theme, mentors throughout my entire education. And so I looked to this group, to faculty, to staff, and the fact that we are all mentors for these students that some have already arrived and some will be arriving very shortly. So remember that. And remember the fact that we are all recruitment and retention agents of this institution, because the interaction doesn't matter if you're the president, it doesn't matter who you are. The interaction that you have with the students and with their families can have a tremendous impact. So, talking about that, let me just say a few things about my leadership style, because I know that we have other aspects to this program. And I got to tell this funny story because, and Shirley's sitting here, I don't like scripts. I like just bullet points. And my wife always tells me, don't do the script. You're terrible reading the script. Just say what you want to say. So I'm off script. So, over 25 years experience in higher education. What are some of my guiding principles? What are some of the things that I think about when I'm ready to make a decision or when I'm working on a new project or a new initiative? And I'm going to tell you the top 5. There are more, and as we get to know one another, as you get to know me, we'll share more of these. But I'll put these into questions that I ask myself that help to guide me as a leader in higher education. First, I ask, how do the decisions affect our students? How do those decisions support our faculty? How do those decisions affect the staff? And most importantly, how do they increase the effectiveness of the teaching and learning environment? Because at SFA, we must have a keen focus on becoming a national leader in student success and retention. And I think we are well on our way. We also need to strengthen our co-curricular learning activities. And in addition, increase in support undergraduate and graduate scholarship and creativity. I have some ideas, and over time, we'll start to look at some of those ideas. Another thing I ask myself, how can I support a more positive workplace environment and effective, efficient, and supportive structures and processes? I've talked to some folks earlier about the fact that, there's big secret, higher ed can be bureaucratic. There are sometimes things that occur that prevent our students from proceeding when they're fully capable of proceeding. And what are some of those hurdles? What are some of those obstacles that are in the way? And are they really needed? And if they are, great. But if they aren't, how can we streamline processes? How can we lower those barriers and those hurdles? And how can we make a culture that's more supportive and caring? The third thing I ask is, how can I increase transparency in all areas? And over the 25 years, the two areas that I think always are ripe for increased transparency are budgets and strategic directions. So over the course of my leadership, we will work to develop open and transparent and inclusive budget processes where we get valuable input from faculty, from staff, from chairs, from deans. We will also develop an open and transparent budget prioritization process, and one that closes the loop so that everybody knows what has been funded, what hasn't been funded, and why. We also look to develop as much data dashboard information as we can. I think it's extremely important that everybody sees the same data. May not have the same interpretation of those data, but at least see the data, because the data needs to belong to all of us, not just a select few. The fourth thing I'll ask is, how can I promote collaborative decision-making and shared governance? I think developing a close relationship with the faculty leadership is a must and a priority, and I will have regular meetings with that leadership. We'll talk about impacted parties, various issues, directions, and decisions, and also foster close collaboration amongst administrative units, and have regular meetings, not just for meetings, but where we can decide and where we can look at ways to collaborate and partner to, again, help the teaching and learning process. And then the last one I want to talk about today is, how can I promote and encourage innovation in a time of immense change in higher education in the United States? Higher education is under fire. You don't have to look up in the Chronicle every day. Well, you can, but it'd probably depress you. But you look in the Chronicle every day and you see mergers, you see closures, you see decreased enrollment, you see decreased funding, you see the public trust eroding. We can have an impact to turn that around. So we need to be looking at new and innovative programs. We need to look to see how we can develop interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary programs, develop new partnerships, public-private partnerships, partnerships with business, industry, national laboratories. We also need to envision a strengthened model of continued professional and executive education programs for the region and develop new programs that are vital to the economic vitality of this region. And so there's a lot that we need to do. There's a lot that's already been going on, don't get me wrong. But we need to be that model of what I call the new American university. And SFA can be and will be that shining star, not just of Texas, but the shining star of the United States. And last, I want to just say a couple of additional things about what you'll find in me as a leader. I'm passionate. I'm all in. You will see my wife and I at all things SFA, at all events. I have completely gotten rid of all of my former institutions' swag. Ryan Ivy has set me up, and I'm, anybody else, Excel? I know, I need to start working out more. So I'm passionate. I like to have fun. I don't know that you've noticed, but we do hard work, and you have to enjoy it, and you have to have fun doing it. I'm also going to be visible. You will see me everywhere. I'll be the bad penny. I'll be showing up even in the evening as I walk around campus, because my wife and I love to walk, and being right on campus, we get to walk all around campus. And I like to challenge the status quo. So don't be offended if I ask why. Well, we do it this way. Why? I think it's good. I love when people ask me, well, why do you do it that way? Because it makes me think about, why am I doing it that way? Is there a better way? And as a result, I'm very open to new ideas. And I probably have 25 of them from 7:30 this morning till now. And that's great. I love it. That's how I thrive on these ideas. And finally, as I develop ideas, I never do it in isolation. When I develop ideas and thoughts, I love to bounce those ideas off of individuals. So I will surround myself with individuals that will give me input. So as I meet with faculty groups, as I meet with staff groups, don't be afraid to ask me questions. Don't be afraid to give me ideas or thoughts or your perspective. I am very open to those kinds of input. And finally, I guess the one phrase that I've used now for probably the last 15 years that sums up, in fact, if you go into the halls of the administration building in Eastern Washington University, there's about 2-foot size letters that say this, because it's always, everybody laughs when I say it. But my favorite phrase to sum up my philosophy, my core values is, how might we? Because a lot of times at higher education institutions, we hear, first thing, we can't do that. No. That may be the answer I give you at some point, but I will ask myself, how might we? And so those are the kinds of things that kind of drive me and who I am. And I want to close just to say that Cherie and I, my wife, we're so excited to make SFA home, and we have already felt like this is home with all the wonderful warmth that we have received. Something else you won't read on the bio, I do have 4 children, but I have a grandchild. If you get that on the news and you share it with my children, I'll probably get a few phone calls. I love my children dearly. Grandchildren, a lot of you have grandchildren. Aren't they special? Oh, my word. So let's see. We have Lauren. Lauren is married, and she has the grandchild, little Adrian, or little A. Ben, who is 22, and Ben is a freshman at Ivy Tech College. He decided to go into the construction industry for a while before going into college. Logan, he's 21, and he is a junior at Belmont University studying the music business, the music industry, and wants to be a manager for the country music stars. And we have Ryan, who's a sophomore at Carson Newman University, and he is studying to be a physician. He's in pre-med. So got 2 in Indiana, 2 in Tennessee, and that's who I am, and I'm excited to be here. And once again, thank you for everything and the warm welcome, and I'm so excited to get started, and hope to meet all of you very soon and get to know each and every one of you. So thank you very much, and let's have a good year. Axum Jacks.
Well, everyone, that's a hard act to follow. I tell you for sure. I'll try to be a dry dog myself, and I don't think Dr. Gordon's remarks could have been any better in terms of fitting in with what I'm about to say. And yet he had no idea what I'm about to say, and I didn't know what he was going to say. We've had no time to interact. We will meet this afternoon for a while. But that's perfect, because I think it shows that the Regents did a great job in their search process. I am going to give you a very quick overview this morning of, in the interest of some folks being new to this audience, a little background on our strategic plan, but not much detail at all. And then we'll go into some of the things that we're going to be doing in the coming year. To start this off, though, again, my name is Steve Bullard, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. I do want to ask, because we did welcome about 60 new members to our faculty this week. They've just arrived, and what I want to do is ask you to stand by college, because then some members of the same college can see some new colleagues. The James I. Perkins College of Education. I'd ask our new members to stand, please, and let me ask you, if you will, to remain standing, because just as Dr. Gordon did, I'd like us to recognize you together. Please remain standing. The College of Liberal and Applied Arts, the new members of our faculty. Thank you. Please continue standing. The College of Fine Arts. We do have new members in each of the 6 colleges. The Nelson Rushi College of Business. Would you stand, please? The College of Sciences and Mathematics. Would our new faculty please stand? And then finally, the Arthur Temple College of Forestry and Agriculture. Again, let's welcome you again. So thank you for... And while we're at it, I want to introduce, or really just recognize, everyone who's joined our faculty and staff within the last year. If you weren't here for this meeting last year, for example, when we were in Turner Auditorium, because this room was being renovated, and that includes individuals who are serving in an interim position, would you stand, please, and let's recognize you as new members of the SFA family. Please stand, everyone, including interims. And while you're standing, let me mention just quickly 4 individuals that everyone in the room owes a debt of gratitude to. As Dr. Gordon said, Dr. Steve Westbrook, Ms. Heather Howell, Dr. Adam Peck, and Dr. Holly Gamble-Smith. Holly, all right. We all thank you absolutely from our heart for the service that y'all have provided. This university hasn't skipped a beat over the last 9 to 10 months. Although we miss Dr. Patillo seriously, we know that. Let me then just tell you that what I'm going to do is talk about a strategic background, because many of you are new to the SFA family. A few strategic issues, and then talk about some strategic doing. We're not just talking about things, we're not just strategic planning or doing things, because as you know, we're right in the middle of the 8-year SFA strategic plan. I'll also give a few very quick operational updates at the very end. Also, just a quick word, kind of a early alert. I told Dr. Gordon this morning because he said earlier that he enjoys having fun. So please keep an eye open for Richard Simmons. There's going to be a video, I mean, not a video, but there'll be a slide of Richard Simmons. This will be a test. If I'm still the provost in about 2 months, we'll know that Dr. Gordon had a good sense of humor. It doesn't tie to him actually in any way, though. By background, let me show that we use the Austin building. The front of the Austin building is an iconic image for our university. We use it to characterize our strategic plan. SFA envisioned, and as you can see, 2015 to 2023, we're marching steadily toward the last 4 years of that plan, September 18th of 2023, when we'll celebrate the 100th anniversary. So we use that image in our strategic planning effort because it turns out to be perfect. Again, I want to thank Michael Tubbs from the College of Fine Arts for helping with this. I've used it every year. This is the 5th time I've used this image, so many of you have seen it before. But as we kind of animate that, we use the front of the building to characterize the various components, the important components of our strategic plan. Part of the reason Dr. Gordon's remarks were so perfect was that he talked about the transformative experience. He talked about what that meant to him and what it means to every student as we use the phrase one lumberjack at a time. You can see that overarching, so we refer to that as the overarching goal of the university. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means. But on the foundational goal, meaningful and sustained enrollment growth, we use the steps to characterize that. And then I won't go into detail on those 4 Roman numerals, the 4 pillars, but just quickly, many of you here know the one on the far left is attracting and supporting high-quality faculty and staff. It's outstanding that we have, and welcome to so many new members of that outstanding faculty and staff. The second pillar is fostering academic and co-curricular innovation. Absolutely fundamental. You heard Dr. Gordon use the word, we have to be innovative in our programs. The third one is redefining university culture. A culture that truly promotes student success is critical. And the fourth one, of course, is increasing connections. I won't be going into detail on that, but believe me, over the past 4 years, we've been a lot of strategic doing in all of those areas. And I will just give a quick update on some of those things, but we've referred to this as a flexible compass. Flexible meaning, yes, it points to true north, but just like an airplane has to recorrect on its flight path, you know where you're going, but sometimes you get blown off course, and you have to be sure you know how to get back on true north. So it's flexible. However, there are metrics, as Dr. Gordon mentioned. We have these posted, but before I even kind of show where that is, I just want to mention the mission statement, the second sentence, because every university in the country has that first sentence in there somewhere about being dedicated to excellence and teaching, research, and service. However, that second sentence is different. In my background, it's the first time I've seen that highlighted at a university, specifically through the personal attention of the people in this room. We engage our students in a learner-centered environment. That's what's critical. That's what creates the transformative experience when we engage that person one lumberjack at a time. So we're serious about that. We recognize it right off the bat. We have to be. These metrics, if you want to take a further look, you can go to the SFA Envisioned website. You can just Google that. It's easy to find. And you'll see a progress dashboard. Again, Dr. Gordon mentioned that word. We need dashboards because just like you have a dashboard in your car, you need to know how fast you're going and what the oil temperature is and how much gas is in the car. We have to have metrics. I want to highlight just a few because Dr. Gordon mentioned retention, and that's why I think this was a perfect lead-in to what I wanted to say. We have specific metrics. You'll see on the left something like a baseline. It's not important that you can read those numbers or anything. What I just want to say is they're there. And we have specific goals on 8 important things. If I just expand that to all of the 8, you can click on any of those buttons, and the metric will be shown as well as our performance. Thanks to Karen Hall and her great staff and institutional research, they have created this so that we can keep an eye on how well we're doing. Let me just, in effect, we've been talking about these as these are metrics are like a report card. They're helping us grade how well we're doing on our report card. How well are we doing in our strategic doing? Total enrollment, for example. Everybody on this campus knows that we set a record enrollment last year when we celebrated the 95th anniversary. 13,144. Even though you can't read it, maybe that's the number that's on that left side for last year. But you also know, many of you in here know this, that record enrollment was set because of this goal, dual credit enrollment. Look at that line on the left and how fast it went up last year to 888 from 320 something. And this year, this fall, we hope that that will go over 1,000. That's intentional. It's because of strategic doing that that has happened. But it's not just so we can get a few more students or a few more semester credit hours. That's not it. It's to build relationships with those students and their families, many of whom are first generation. And an increasing percentage of our students will be first generation students in the coming, with the demographic changes. We need to build relationships. I want to back up then and look at credit hours. And I'm not going to look at all 8. I won't do that. Again, the information is out there, but credit hours have been flat, semester credit hours. We have to address that. To me, that is the meaningful number that's at the base of the Austin building. When we say meaningful and sustained enrollment growth, it's not just the Chamber of Commerce number of how many students we have. It's semester credit hours. That helps affect our budget and also determines whether we're having real impact for Texas and our society. So again, we're taking these things very seriously. We need to keep asking ourselves what our grade is on each of these things. How well are we supporting that? How well are we accomplishing these things? And keep asking that. And by the way, we're doing pretty well, as Dr. Gordon said. We can do better, and there's work to do. What I'm not going to talk about this morning is SAC's class of 2021 or the Quality Enhancement Program. Those are very vital issues for us, and you will see they are going to be over the next year or two as we approach 2021 and as we implement a QEP and as we complete the compliance certification report. Dr. Guidry and his fine staff, the fine staff of folks we have in institutional effectiveness, are working hard and working with teams to accomplish that. I'm not going to really talk about that this morning. I do want to talk about strategic issues. That was the background part. The issues part also fits well with what Dr. Gordon said, because he mentioned how we are confronting some things that's new in our history. Specifically, this report came out of Inside Higher Ed. It's about 116 pages, and I want to read about 9 sentences from it. But I want you to look at what it says. It's opportunities and challenges for regional public universities. This is us, just like Eastern Washington, Southern Indiana. This is who we are, but this characterizes in this report the vast middle of the American higher ed system, ecosystem, traditionally drawing heavily on state funding in order to offer moderately priced four-year degrees to a large number of students, many studying close to home. That's us. Here's what it says in terms of some of the issues. As with any entity occupying a middle ground, these institutions perform a thankless job under seemingly constant pressure from all sides. Regional public colleges are not as prestigious as land-grant and research universities. Their prices are higher than those of community colleges. They do not change fast enough to satisfy some politicians and business interests, even as faculty members see them as too quick to abandon the traditional liberal arts. I'll come back to that, but continuing, none of these pressures are new, but they're intensifying. The middle is an increasingly inhospitable place. By the way, this report just came out, where public funding does not always keep up with the growth in the number of students who can't afford tuition costs, and where lawmakers increasingly demand proof that tax dollars are being spent wisely. Serving students close to home is becoming more and more difficult at a time when the demographics of high school graduates are changing. Now, this is true. It's different in different regions, and so it's going to vary, but I wanted to put one slide from last year. This is a slide that we used at this meeting last year, and I borrowed that, by the way. Jeff Salingo, many of you have probably read College Unbound or the book There Is Life After College. He spoke in Austin last year at a leadership conference for the coordinating board at a meeting for new regents. The quote up at the top is from David Alders, who at the time he made that quote was making a presentation to the faculty senate and during his time as chair of the Board of Regents. If we don't embrace change, institutions like SFA are, quote, going to be JCPenney or worse, Sears in an Amazon world. We don't want to be caught in that. Just as Dr. Gordon characterized, if we're not careful and we don't make the right decisions and we don't innovate and we don't embrace change, we could easily be there. As Dr. Westbrook characterized the spaces that we're changing and the new physical space, that is wonderful, but that won't get us there. You know that. That's like JCPenney saying, we just need to build a new store. We have to deliver, we have to be student-focused, and that's why it comes back to the DNA of SFA, being truly authentic to who we are. Anyway, I wanted to just characterize that. That's what that report said, an increasingly inhospitable place. And that report didn't talk about some of the things that are also affecting us, like unfunded mandates. It didn't mention that the accrediting bodies, the Higher Education Act, CHIA, the Council of Higher Education Accreditation, and then SACS, the regional representative, they keep having more and more demands upon us. Our academic programs have individual accrediting bodies that place demands. We have state laws to adopt the controls for information technology. All of these things add to our costs. They don't come with extra money. And so that's a challenge for us, but I just found it interesting. They didn't mention that, but we've seen that, and we've seen the other things as well. Let me mention one more book here, and this is Demographics and the Demand for Higher Education. 2 sentences that I'm borrowing from that. Over the next 15 years, substantially fewer students from areas east of the Rockies will attend regional colleges and universities. And then the second one, the population growth in the Southwest, which that's us in this book, heralded by headlines in the Chronicle of Higher Ed, is concentrated in populations that aren't likely to attend a regional 4-year school. That's part of being squeezed in the middle. The elite institutions will have their student body. There'll be students trying to get in. And the community colleges will have their students because of the lower cost and plus also for, Dr. Gordon mentioned Ivy Tech. My son got a 4-year degree and then went to a community college to get an HVAC certificate. There's an increasing demand for those in our society, and that's great. But what Nathan Graw has said, and by the way, I not only read the book, but I attended a webinar he presented a few months ago. For us, at the regional level, things aren't looking really great, but I want to say this. He did point out something to us at SFA that's extremely important, and that is he highlights Houston and Dallas as major oppositional trends to what's going on at the national level. So we have great opportunities. We're just the right distance. We used to market SFA as we're just the right distance from your parents. Or if you've been a parent of a college student, you know that as well. So strategic issues, one more sentence. Drum roll, what do you think over the next 10 years the absolute critical issue is going to be? And Dr. Gordon characterized it perfectly. He used those words, student success. Now, at SFA, I'm going to make the case that we call that transformative experience. Everything relating to the transformative experience is intentional detail toward student success. So what is that? Because everybody in this room might have their own definition. And I'll just borrow one. This comes from Indiana State. And by the way, I'm also transitioning to strategic doing, not just the issues. Indiana State and the University of South Carolina. Student success means favorable or desirable student outcomes. But look at that list. It's students becoming resilient, retention and persistence. It's students going from being worriers to becoming warriors. And that's not just ROTC, although we have a great ROTC program. It's resilience of all of our students in developing It's not only educational attainment, although it is that. Are they attaining the degree or the certificate that they desire? Academic achievement, are they doing well and advancing academically? Student advancement means really, as a student, are they engaged? Are they involved? Are they part of the university in terms of its social belonging? And then holistic development, intellectual, emotional, social, ethical, physical. All of that is student success. It's not just one little thing. So that, I'm borrowing that from them. So under the strategic doing, a significant event, many of you in this room, I won't ask for a show of hands because I don't want to look like I'm being pejorative in some way, but many, in fact, we bought 550 copies of that book and distributed every one of them. 550 people on this campus read that book. And then we had plenary sessions, we had group sessions, facilitated sessions. I want to thank Dr. Bob Zaffron again for his fine work in helping lead that endeavor from the faculty perspective. Through those sessions, we came forward with 12 main proposals. That was about 2.5 years ago. And then we had one of the authors, Betsy Barefoot, come to campus and present to us just down the hall in the Twilight Ballroom. She was here for a full day. Here's some of what we said, and I know you can't read that, but what I want you to know is that that is posted at our strategic planning website, and we've been doing a lot of strategic doing relating to those 12 proposals. Notice that 6 of them are titled Student Success. I would actually say that even the 3 above that, Connecting College Learning and Readiness for Career Success, that's also student success. They're almost all student success. When Dr. Gordon mentioned the budget, I just want to call your attention. You might not be able to read that, but I will read one of them. It's toward the middle, just below the middle. That's actually toward the bottom. But all funding decisions should hinge on if and to what extent the expenditure will impact student success. That's a perfect tie-in to our new president coming on board. And I'll come back to that. Let me give you some examples of strategic doing. Just last week, I had the pleasure, Dr. Westbrook and I had the pleasure of going to the Summer Undergraduate Research Experience kind of summary event with faculty from the College of Sciences and Mathematics. You can see the transformation occurring even as students arrive at SFA. So I want to thank Dr. Childs, Dr. Bruton, and the others, the faculty members who've helped create that. Again, I'm just going to highlight a few quick examples. Last week, we also had a significant event, Camp CTL. The Center for Teaching and Learning does fine work. Megan Weatherly and the full staff of that group always do a great job. This year, I think there were over 130 different sign-ins to these events on our faculty. I also want to point out, Dr. Peck taught CC Khan how to juggle. CC, where are you? You may have a future in administration. We can put you. We had Leadership SFA last year, another strategic doing on the culture pillar. The folks at the top photo are the committee members, all leaders on our campus. The ones in the bottom photo are ones who came through the cohort last year, and there's a new cohort beginning next year. I think it was Tom Peters that said, leaders don't create followers, leaders create leaders, and that's what's going on in these programs. As part of our strategic doing, one of the first things we did about 3 years ago under the strategic plan, we had a committee that looked at undergraduate college exploratory committee, and they recommended we compile things together. The wonderful things that are going on in ARC, the Academic Assistance Resource Center, SFA 101, then we expanded it to a transfer session, so that as well. Undecided advising, JAX Pass, GenJAX, they're keeping and they have great evidence of their success. But we're not done. We have more work to do. I'll come back to that. We were part of an ASCU project, the American Association of State Colleges and Universities, nationwide project. 44 universities were selected, and we were one of them, to reimagine the first year. And that meant reimagining how we do some things, and we implemented some things, some of which were successful and some not. That's where we got the campaign 15 to finish, 15 semester credit hours, so you build momentum toward graduation. Again, I'm not going into detail on any of these. Investing in the Lumberjack Express mobile food lab shows evidence that we are doing strategically with leadership and guidance from faculty and staff, a very significant investment. So thanks to the folks in that college and that department. As Dr. Westbrook mentioned, the Culinary Cafe is an outstanding program. We now have a mobile version of it, and we'll soon have the house on Mound Street as well. So how many lumberjacks at a time? One. We all know that. When you join the SFA family, please know that. It's that individual student, and especially the first-gen student, or what they're referring to now in the literature as new generation or new gen. We're also members of the Educational Advisory Board Student Success Collaborative. So again, another investment, a major effort on behalf of the university. Again, all of that amounts to transformative experience. And I think that equals student success. Now, we haven't been as intentional as we need to be in terms of measuring that, and we're changing that as well so that when we come up for SACS reaffirmation, we can show the evidence that we're doing that. So that was my summary of strategic doing. I wanted to show you some evidence of, again, bachelor's degrees awarded to at-risk students. These are the 37 public universities in Texas. And even though you can't see the numbers or the names, perhaps, I want to call attention to the far right, that little bar over there at the right, that's Tarleton State. That's not right. The data were wrong on that. But here's SFA. 73% of our students were considered by the coordinating board, and that's not really of our students. Those are students who received the bachelor's degree. So those are the successful students. They're either, and there are 5 categories to that, they're either Pell eligible, adding the unduplicated percentages, they're either Pell eligible, or they started college at age 21 or later, or they finished high school with a GED, or they take fewer than 12 hours in their first semester, or they scored lower than the national average on ACT or SAT. Those 5 percentages, you can't see to the far right, but Texas A&M and UT Austin, their student population has half that percentage. And yet we've been doing well. So as Dr. Gordon said, we have some things that we can really crow about in some ways, and we have done this. Dr. Patillo and I, in front of the coordinating board, highlighted these very numbers, and Raymond Paredes, Commissioner of Higher Ed, was well aware of it. Over here, when average time to complete a bachelor's degree, 3rd in the state at 4.5 years. Well, again, we have recognized that there is a strategic plan statewide, 60 by 30 Texas, and we're fully consistent with that. They adopted that plan 2 days after we adopted our strategic plan 4 years ago. And the last one I want to show is average semester credit hours to a bachelor's degree. Again, the one on the far right, that's Tarleton when it's wrong. You can't get a degree at Tarleton with 80 hours. I'm sorry. But SFA 132, 4th in the state. So we have some things to really say we do make a difference, and it's through the attention of our personal attention of our faculty and staff, engaging learners in a learner-centered environment. And it's through the weaving of extracurricular, co-curricular, and curricular activities. I put curricular in purple because that's my home, and I want to make sure that one's in there. But notice that weaving is where our strength is. Any one of those strands, any one of those threads would be much weaker on its own. Together, we're stronger. And I think that's reflected in our strategic doing. It covers all divisions of the university, all aspects of the university. But I want to make a point that's been made at UT Austin, heat versus work. I'll come back to that. We've generated a lot of heat. We've done a lot of things, and there are a lot of great people doing great things. I'll come back to that in a definition in just a minute. I want to show you what they did at UT Austin, because this book came out just recently, written by a faculty member at UC Berkeley. What he pointed out is nationwide there's a scandal about how few students are getting that degree. In fact, the most expensive degree you can have is the one you never get. And that is a national scandal, what's being pointed out. UT Austin, there's an entire chapter on them and what a great job they've done. And the reason I put the names up there is because we've interacted with these folks. They're with us. We've had David Laudy came to this campus for a day and spoke to multiple audiences about what they're doing. David Yeager, we had him in a webinar over in the math building a couple of years ago. He's in the psychology program, What he's done is really nationally preeminent in terms of the psychology of students, especially first-gen students, especially underrepresented and minority students, and how you can change their whole resilience pattern through some simple activities. Anyway, Rochelle Hernandez is the current version of David Lawdy. I met her in Austin. We were on a panel together about a year ago. And then their president, Bill Powers, at the time, Bill Powers. What I wanted to summarize is what they're doing is they recognize every student can get an A. They're saving lives. They're bringing student success to scale. There's a national project for that. That's what we need to do. One of those steps we need to take is to scale what we're doing in things like GenJacks and other programs. Turning improbable scholars into campus leaders, belonging and growth mindset changed the lives of minority freshmen. They found out at UT Austin, for example, something as simple as a 1-hour session at orientation. And they did an experiment, control group versus the ones who got the mindset factor involving other students. Had a huge impact. And by the way, their goal was to, under David Lawdy, he was kind of the paladin for that on the UT campus. Their goal was 70%. And when this book was written, they had almost hit it. They were at 69% in about 4 years, in terms of the 4-year graduation rate. I wanted to put this up. This is a direct quote from that book by David Lawdy, who came to our campus. Now, he's talking about UT Austin. On this campus, there are 1 million people who have lots of enthusiasm for fixing things, but that's just a bunch of heat. Remember I said heat versus work. The difference between heat and work thermodynamically is that heat is movement in chaos randomly, whereas work is movement all in the same direction. What I was able to do was to say, all of us, we're all going to start working in the same direction. That's what we will have with Dr. Gordon. He just said that. We will all be working toward student success. And that's immeasurably valuable for all of us. When we read that book, one of the chapters was titled Alignment Matters. We haven't had full alignment, and yet that's changing. Again, over the next 10 years, critical issue is student success. Let me just, from a cultural standpoint, I made a few notes this morning. These are just some things that I was aware of just this morning that I wanted to be sure and mention because it's cultural. And then I'll go to the quickly overview of Georgia State. Our bursar's office, Pam Corman. Is Pam here? Pam, I will thank her for what she does. We found out that some parents at the last orientation session were complaining because they couldn't get their bill. They wanted to know, why can't I get my bill? I want to pay it now. I want to know how much it is. Joe Shannon put her in connection with those parents, and she called them. That's one lumberjack at a time. It's one lumberjack parent at a time, one lumberjack family at a time, one lumberjack ISD at a time as we build dual credit relationships. Other things, Michael Janusa and the chemistry faculty have done an outstanding job and just recently had an article, or it is being published online, about what they've done at SFA in the chemistry program to engage undergraduate research and the impact it had on their numbers in terms of retention and success of students. Keith Hubbard just finished faculty development leave where he looked specifically at tracking the transformative experiences at SFA, what needs to change in order to track that. He also looked, for maximum impact, he also looked at how we can, by using math, how we can target scholarship dollars for maximum impact. The forestry faculty, Ikai Hung and Pat Stevens-Williams, Jeremy Stovall, multiple members of the forestry faculty with Hans Williams as dean, just finished a national conference about a year ago on forestry education. It was held right here in Nacogdoches for SFA. And the Journal of Forestry, the premier magazine in the field, just published a special section and an issue with 7 articles on that topic, including those authored by our own faculty. And Jeremy's provided leadership at the national level in terms of developing open educational resources. Again, our QEP is reducing student debt. We'll be leading the way on that in the future. Last spring, Court Carney and Hunter Hampton developed, that we kind of showcased how they use podcasting in history courses. Veronica Beavers, I wanted to highlight just because we highlighted that because of what she did with poverty simulation, CC Khan and peer mentoring, Raul Prezas and Paul Shockley publishing on, the title of the book was Thinking with Excellence, Navigating the College Journey and Beyond, with a foreword by Jim Towns. And Scott Hutchins designing a dual credit course in psychology that's had great impact. Again, converting worriers into warriors. I heard Dr. Gordon say grit, grace, and gratitude. Our students, when we transform, when you experience that and you see it, you see them becoming, and I don't want to, but they become humbly grateful for what you've done. And you can see some of that conversion from grumbly hateful to humbly grateful. It's all how we engage students in a learner-centered environment. Okay, unless you think, because you will think, well, UT Austin, that's an elite institution. What about the regional comprehensive? Georgia State has set the national benchmark on a lot of things to change. Tim Rennick, VP for Enrollment Management and Student Success, and President Mark Becker. They're the first to use data analytics, the first to use nudges, again, psychological nudges with students, to embed growth mindset and social belonging. They rewrote the freshman experience and curriculum. They were the first in the nation to give just-in-time small grants. So students don't lose their schedule, they don't get blocked out because they have a parking ticket, for example. And they launched the University Innovation Alliance. UT Austin is a member of that, Arizona State. And they expanded peer mentoring. They found out at Georgia State that students listen to other students. And so when I say expanded it very significantly, they set a goal that advisors and mentors, that the ratio would be at a certain level, and they accomplished that again. So I want to say this, we are learning. We're doing a lot, but we're also learning a lot. And we'll have to continue to learn through time. Heat or work, I think we'll all learn that together, how to align our work for student success. So that's what I wanted to say, and I want to also give a few operational updates in closing. But here's one, technical issues. I think everybody maybe got a postcard in your box, it may be there now. To department chairs and academic unit heads, let me say this is a big step forward. Our classroom support is now there, and I want to thank Anthony Espinoza and all of his staff for doing this. They want to take a monkey off of your back. They want you to call them with the problems that you have in the classroom, whether it's a projector bulb or whatever. If it's the carpet or the seats or whatever, call them and they'll turn that over to physical plant. But you now have a one number to call, and it'll be posted, of course, in the classrooms. And we'll talk more about that, but also if you have a great experience, please tell him and tell us, tell the vice president so that we know. If you don't have a great experience, tell us. That's how we will continue to make that better. And again, I want to thank Anthony for his leadership on that. There's something that we learned also from the book, focusing on what matters most, that it made a difference at Duke University, as we learned from other places, that students and faculty or staff having a meal together, just an informal discussion, makes a real difference in terms of their resilience, their sense of belonging. At SFA, I want to thank Aramark for their generous support of this, because there is a cost associated with it. But if a student has a meal card, or if you want to buy your meal and then let the student eat free, it's good at Chick-fil-A, Which, Panda Express, or the cafeterias. And there's the week. So watch for more information on that. And also, we like t-shirts around here. I'll give you a little closer view of this one. Dr. Peck has told me that there are some available. They will be available today in the Student Affairs office, third floor of this building, if you'd like. But it's going to cost you at least an hour of work. And here's what's on the t-shirt. Welcoming new lumberjacks and sweating off pounds, the move-in day. So I warned you it was coming. We might be able to create a fundraiser, Jill, if we get Dr. Peck to dress up as Richard Simmons. We'll turn on that disco ball and have a great time. We'll see if Dr. Gordon likes fun. Maybe we won't. In closing, let me say this. It's such a wonderful thing to work here. Everybody in this room, I think, works here or has worked here. You know that. But I want to remind you of a statement that was stated by one of our commencement speakers. December 2016, the commencement speaker was Representative Jason Isaac. And I wrote something down that he said that was, I think, important. He said, if it's worth doing poorly. That was the unexpected point. If it's worth doing poorly. What he meant by that was, if it's worth doing, learn from it. Always be learning. Always be learning as individuals and as an organization. That's what was pointed out in that book. There was a chapter also titled Learning Matters, but learning organizations. So as we start this new semester, let's go out there and do it poorly. Now you're going to go and say, you won't believe what the vice president said. No, let's learn. Let's learn together. Thank you very much. Have a great semester.
Before we get done, I want to give you a little bit of insight into Dr. Gordon's decision-making ability. As we were preparing for this, I was communicating with him about what to expect with this program, sort of the order of business. And I said, now listen, occasionally we would do a group photo at the end of this. And we do it about every 5 years. And we did one last year because it was the 95th year. But it'll be your first year, and if you really would like to, we'll make the arrangements to do that. He's a good decider. He came back and he said, no, we're not going to do the outdoor group photo. So congratulations, everybody. We got out of the group photo outdoors, but we do want to do a photo indoors, and he decided the best way to do that would to be take a selfie of himself with you in the background. So we're going to do that, and then I've asked Hardy to take a picture of Dr. Gordon taking a picture of you, and that way that will be our group photo for this year. So Dr. Gordon, step right up.
Thank you. It's meta. But I do have, and I have to thank Ryan Ivy, because he's going to teach me about Twitter. But I will tweet this. My Twitter handle, is that my, @SGordonSFA. So here we go.
Party up.
Run.